What's up, all my international people of the world? It's your boy, Myles Awai, back again, once again, for another video for you today. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to this channel. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at MYLES AWAI. You can also stream all my music on all streaming platforms by the same name, MYLES space AWAI. That's me. Listen to me. I have music on YouTube. Check all the songs on my playlist, because you know, baby, I do that. Today, we are going to be talking about drugs. No, honestly. We're going to be talking about Janet the motherfucking Jackson. And why do I have this Dare shirt on? For those of y'all know, my real ones know what Dare is, the throwback. Remember all this bullshit we done got taught in elementary school, and not a single one of y'all motherfuckers follow this shit. Who does it? Tell me. This bullshit right here. Y'all know who y'all are. Now we're gonna be talking about Janet Jackson today. I got this shirt on because, you know, this is what Janet stands for to this day. And I don't got a Janet Jackson shirt, so this is the closest I got to something Janet Jackson related. In celebration of her documentary, which was just stupendous. I love it. Chef's kiss and wine. It was so enlightening. Janet Jackson will forever be that bitch. Forever. In celebration of her documentary, of her wonderful, fantabulous diva life, we are going to be talking about all her albums, from my least favorite to my favorite, out of the albums that I have listened to. I didn't listen to the first two. I'm not gonna lie to you. I started at Control. I felt that was a good space to start at, because even Janet said that music those two first albums that she did, they were what Joe wanted to put out. Joe and the label wanted to put out. She didn't want nothing to do with that. Control was her when she first started taking, obviously, control of her life and her music. So I started there. So let's get this started right here. My least favorite Janet Jackson album is actually her most recent album, Unbreakable. I think this came out in 2014 or 2015, something like that. Unbreakable. It's not my favorite Janet Jackson album, I'm not gonna lie to you. At that point, she hadn't put out an album since 2008. So that was like 7 years after her last album. Music had changed a whole lot from 2008 to 2015. Music went from like that very poppy sound to more EDM based during that time, and I think she really wanted to incorporate that into her music. And it's not a bad album. It just feels a bit disjointed, I'm not gonna lie to you. Classic Janet shines through a lot in songs like No Sleep, which is like one of those down-tempo songs, one of those sexy down-tempo songs that we all know and love Janet for, or like the really dance-heavy Burn It Up. You know, it's a nice little something that gets you dancing and grooving. Love that song. I'm not a big fan. I wasn't a big fan of like EDM music. I'm not really a big fan of EDM music. I don't really like the whole like. I just didn't like that sound, and I didn't like it for Janet. My favorite tracks on the album though was songs like No Sleep, Burn It Up, Damn Baby. I love Damn Baby, love that song. Night was a really good song, as well as Take Me Away. Number 8 on this list, I think it's 2005 album, 20 years old. I think it's like 20-yo, 20-yo. It took me a couple of listens to actually like really enjoy this album, because at first, when I first heard it, I was like, this album's boring. Like, it's not really giving what a 20-year-old, a Janet Jackson, 20 years in the game, what I thought she would be giving. To me, the album just didn't age well. It sounds very dated, and for that time. And it's not a bad album. Again, none of these albums are bad. Let's just say that. None of these albums are bad. It's Janet Jackson. You are not going to go wrong with Janet Jackson at all. But this album in itself wasn't it for like a whole like full circle moment that she was trying to have with this album. It wasn't really giving what it was supposed to be giving. I think some songs she could have cut back on for this album, and it would have made it like a little bit more enjoyable in that sense. Just because a lot of these songs just kind of like they sound similar and just very 2005. Honestly, we had a lot of great albums come out in 2005. We had The Emancipation of Mimi. We had the Pussycat Dolls out. We had fucking Rihanna come out. Like it was like we had a lot of great songs during that time. You know, we had a lot of great pop moments in 2005, and like 20 wasn't it. But she had some good tracks on there, I'm not gonna lie. And after like the first like 4 listens of the album, it grows on you. It grows on you. But my favorite tracks on this album mostly was With You. A lot of these slow tracks were like my favorite because again, slow tracks are what I adore from Janet. Because to me, Janet, even though she does fantastic fantastic up-tempo songs, but to me her real bag is in her slow songs because she has that voice that is just so calming and pure and innocent that you just believe every single word that she says when she's just singing to you like this. So my favorite songs on this album was the slower songs, like With You and Call on Me with Nelly. That was a great song, great single. Take Care, Enjoy, Roll With You. Roll With You was even though I talk shit, Roll With You was a great song to add on there, and it's one of my favorite Janet Jackson songs in the 2000s. Can I just roll with you, on the floor with you, laying it down? Yes. Number 7 on this list is her 2008 album, Discipline. I slept on this album, I'm not gonna lie to you. I actually did sleep on this album. Only because, like, I remember this album came out when I was in 8th grade. And I remember the Feedback video and the Rock With You video coming out on 106 in Park. And, like, I love those 2 songs. Like, Feedback was that bitch. Rock With You, love that song. I kept fucking up the lyrics. I kept saying, strawberries. What was it? Strawberries and you're sexy. Some shit like that. I kept fucking up the lyrics. I don't know. I kept saying strawberries. I love those 2 songs, but I slept on this album because the first time I listened to it, I didn't like it. Because it had that 08 sound. Again, it sounded dated. It just sounded dated during that time, and I was just like, I wasn't really a big fan of where music was going 07 to like on up. I wasn't a big fan of music where the sound it was heading, just because it was going towards that pop sound that was so like apparent, especially during this time. You know, you had artists like Kesha coming up and Katy Perry, and I just wasn't a fan of that 08 sound. And so when I first heard it, I was like, okay, this sounds like another 08 album. But again, after listening to it a couple times, I was just like, hold on, because this album got some fucking vibes on it. And then I kept listening to it again and again and again. I was like, okay, wait, this song got more vibes than I thought it had on it, because this is actually a pretty good album. And there still are some songs on there that I just think that she could have just passed on, because they're just not that good to me. But there are a lot of gems I think that we slept on 08 Janet. Janet Jackson should have made her big comeback in 08 when Discipline came out, and she started doing these movies with Tyler Perry and whatnot. That's when her real comeback should have happened. To me, like, Discipline was an amalgamation of How 20, Yo, and Unbreakable. Like, it was a combination of their flaws, but it didn't lean either or ways. Like, it wasn't as bad as this or as bad as that. It was just there. And so, which is why it's a little higher than the other 2. To me, it was like a pretty average sounding Janet Jackson album. which is still like more iconic than a lot of these bitches out here. But like for Janet Jackson's caliber, it could have been better. The gems that I think are on this album though are, you know, Feedback, of course, Love, Rock With You, Can't Be Good. Can't Be Good is a really good song. This can't be good. This can't be good. This can't be love. Like, that's my song. And Discipline. Discipline is a sexy ass song. Sexy. Discipline's a sexy ass song, and I'm just like, girl, who you trying to discipline? You're trying to discipline yourself. I'm with it. Lock me up. Take me down, please. Alright, I'm about to get a lot of hate. Y'all about to hate me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't even want to do this video anymore because y'all, I'm about to get so much shit on this. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Y'all about to turn this video off right now and be like, who do you think you are? But understand, these are my opinions, baby. These are mine. Understand that this is only mine from my 26-year-old little boy brain, okay? Understand that. Number 6 is Rhythm Nation. I know. Don't attack me, please. Number 6 is Rhythm Nation. And again, this is not me saying I don't like Rhythm Nation. I love Rhythm Nation. Rhythm Nation is a great album. It's a fantastic album. This is when we start getting into Janet's bag. Let's just talk about that. This is when Janet's bag starts. This is when the list starts getting into Janet's bag. Starts getting in with the heavy hitters and all that. So just understand that I had to make a decision now. I had to make hard decisions. And fuck y'all. Number 6 is Rhythm Nation. My main issues with Rhythm Nation are not the songs in itself. It's the fucking interludes. There's so many interludes on this album. And it's like, I know how they tie into each song, but like they ruin the groove of the album to me. Like they don't just flow. Like I'm all for like a concept album, but make sure that the concept album doesn't like feel disjointed and like doesn't feel like it's just like a commercial break. Again, that album has some of her best work on it, but when you get so many damn interludes in it, it kind of takes away from the whole experience. So my favorite songs on there though, Rhythm Nation, of course, Rhythm Nation. Living in the World They Didn't Make, that's a beautiful song. I love her voice on it. I love the harmonies on it. I love how the climax, I love how it builds up and it's just living in a world they didn't make. The storyline behind the whole song and just her voice, it just soars and carries the song. Of course, Escapade and Alright. All the songs, let's just talk about that. All the songs are just great. Alright, Come Back to Me is a gem. Lonely. The whole album is just, all the songs there are just beautiful. But it has to be placed at number 6 because the fucking interlude. So sorry. Nah. I guess I'm still not done fucking pissing y'all off because number 5 is Control. To me, Control is at number 5 because, not because of anything negative, but more just because this is when, to me, I consider this album to be the metaphor of baby Janet. The Janet that is yet to realize she's Janet. But you can see her star potential. You can see she has all this potential in her. She just has that, but it's not fully conceptualized just yet. It ain't fully materialized in front of us just yet. Honestly, it would have been number 6 if Rhythm Nation didn't have all them damn interludes. But it's number 5 because there are no interludes on this album. Which makes it a more enjoyable experience to me than Rhythm Nation. But there are like some filler songs on this album that she probably could have cut. But it's still a very enjoyable album. I love Control actually. I go back to Control very often. Now I'm gonna be honest, I don't really go back to a whole 80s albums like that. Unless it's Michael Jackson or Janet. Michael, Janet, or Anita. But my favorite song of this album Pleasure Principle. I love that song. It's Pleasure Principle. Oh, oh, oh. It's Principle of Pleasure. Come on. That is a sexy ass song. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's a sexy ass song. Pleasure Principle. He Doesn't Even Know I'm Alive. Love that song. And Let's Wait a While. Those are my favorite songs on the album. But I don't know. Again, it's hard for me to pick favorites on these albums because I love the entire discography of her. Cuatro, number four. Number four is The Velvet Rope. I love this album so fucking much. I love The Velvet Rope. I really do. And it has carried so many careers. Let's just talk about that. The Velvet Rope has literally carried careers on its back. It has all your favorite careers on its back. Any pop bitch that turned good to bad is carrying, the Velvet Rope is carrying her. This album, there's a lot of interludes on it, but it carries the narrative of the whole album, which flows into every single song perfectly. It's a very experimental album. It takes a lot of risk, especially for Janet during this time period. But it's so beautifully crafted to where it's so moody and so dark, but so spiritual and so conscious and so heavy. It's just like she's a fucking genius. Like, I don't understand. The Velvet Rope is such a great album. You know, this is when we started to get more of R&B Janet. You know, this is when pop Janet was just like taking a back seat to R&B Janet, because R&B Janet had a lot to say. She had a lot to say that was on her mind that she didn't really say beforehand. She wanted to be She wanted to be sexier than Janet, period. She wanted to be more conscious than the Rhythm Nation and Control and all that. You know, she talked about homophobia. She talked about suicide. She talked about depression, sexual needs. How does one create an album that's just so beautifully crafted that hits all these points? It's such a solid body of work that it doesn't feel disjointed. It doesn't feel like incohesive. It doesn't feel like you're trying to put on like a front. It's just believable. I fucking love this album. I'm gonna keep saying how much I love this album because I keep going back to this album so many damn times. The only song I don't like on here, which is why it's at number 4, is because it's my least favorite Janet Jackson song, which is Tonight's the Night. I don't like that song. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I know it's a cover. I don't like it. That's why it's just lower, because I needed a reason to put I need a reason to make the album like go lower, and that's the one reason why I just don't like it. But I do have a lot of favorite songs on here. Again, I gotta say that I love the whole discography. I love all the tracks besides that one. But my most favorite ones are like Anything and Go Deep, Rope Burn. Rope Burn is What About? And of course, I Get Lonely. That was my first Janet song that I remember hearing. And it's a classic R&B song that you just gotta know, that you gotta sing along to when you hear it. I get so lonely. Number 3 is All For You. Let me tell you about All For You. All For You is the key. Like, she didn't need to do All For You. She did not need to do All For You. Honestly, she could have just went from The Velvet Rope to the next album. But she wanted to be that bitch and hit you with All For You. A lot of these songs that I heard as a kid, I don't remember being so dirty. For instance, like Too Close and Rock the Boat. All For You falls in that category of being like so innocent and yet so nasty. Like, she's talking about his package and how she wants to write it. Like, what? Imagine like a 5-year-old me singing this song. It's all for you. You really want this, all for you. Like, just nasty. This album has, again, many interludes. She's a very interlude heavy girl. A lot of interludes, but none of the songs miss. None of them miss. Of course, my favorite songs on this album is All For You. The iconic, the sexy, the sexiest song you would ever hear. Would You Mind? I love this song, Feel So Right. It just gives me so much nostalgia when I hear it, just because it sounds very 2000s, but it's just like, it just makes you feel so good. It feels so right. Like, it just hits you right here in your heart, and it makes you feel all warm inside. Number 2, oh my god, I love this album. I love this album. It's the Meeta Joe. The Meeta Joe. The Meeta Joe. Don't did it again. I'm so mad that the Super Bowl shit happened, because had that worked out in her favor, the Meeta Joe, I honestly think, would have been one of her another blockbuster album. I would have thought that, just because it's so good. It's so good. It is the most sexy and most sexually free Janet has ever been. Ever. Let's talk about it. It was probably the right time to show that titty on that TV, because she was just letting y'all know, like, bitch, suck it. When you hear this album, you're gonna want to suck my titties either way. This is her climactic, like, sex symbol album. Like, this is when she was like, bitch, I know I'm sexy, okay? Understand that, bitch. You ain't gotta tell me shit. Like, she was just like, bitch, I am that bitch. What are you talking about? It's a very bouncy, it's a very light album. Every cut on this album just hits. It's very bouncy, it's very light. It's very like I'm that bitch, I'm sexy, I'm here to touch my pussy, and that's it. This album is if Pornhub was an album. If Pornhub was an album, it would be the Meeta Joe. My favorite song of this album is Thinking About My Ex. Warm, moist, truly. Like, those songs on the album is just, it gets you there. If you want songs to fuck to, this every single track on this album. And of course, I have to go at number 1. This is my favorite Janet Jackson album ever. Her magnum opus to me. Her, like, most iconic album to date is Janet, period. That album is Chef's Kiss Magnifico. To me, this album perfected the art of her playful, sensual, socially conscious, most artistic side of her. Every album prior or post this album, you get like, she exceeds in like different parts of her, but this album to me is just her culmination of all that. Like, she just excels in every single point that she was trying to create in this album. Like, every single track on this album, interludes included, just flow in such a manner to where you're just taking on this ride. It keeps you in the moment. You don't leave it. You don't leave it. Not from the get-go. From That's the Way Love Goes all the way down to Whoops Now. It keeps you in suspense. The album does keep you in suspense. Even on the lighter notes, it just keeps you just like, fuck, where we going? Where we going? Albums don't do that anymore. They don't keep you in the moment. Albums these days, they just sit there, and like, you get a track here, you get a track there, you get a track there. This album to me, you really, like, she really came back in 1993 and was like, I thought every moment of this through, and just letting you know that you have no choice but to like this album. Yeah, my titties are out, and what? And what? Like, and what? Who gonna check me? I got my titties out now, and they sitting. But you couldn't tell me nothing about this album. The Rob, Funky Big Band. These are my favorite songs right here. I'm just listing them off now. Funky Big Band, The Rob, If, Anytime, Any Place. Like, these songs just hit. They hit. Where Are You Now? They just hit. They just hit. They just hit. Those were my favorite Janet Jackson albums from number 9 to number 1. Of course, none of the albums are bad. Again, even her worst shits on most people's best. Let's just talk about it. But make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. And I will catch y'all later.